Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I tried to learn from Coach Smith. He would say all you guys were getting stiff and needed to stand up right there. You know, I was going to say something about young John being here. Scott sent me a text, Coach Smith's son Scott, at 11:19 on that Saturday night and said that his father had passed. And the staff, we started calling people the next morning. And I called Doug Moe, Larry Brown, Eddie Fogler, a few other people, and one of the ones I called was Big John Thompson. I call him Big John Thompson and Young John Thompson because Big John told me not to call him old. But Big John made this statement one time that I never forgot because he said that Dean Smith shared with him the most precious thing you could share, and that's knowledge. And Coach Smith loved Big John Thompson. He really did. And Coach Thompson, and I've had several conversations over these last few years when Coach Smith was struggling, and if you could have heard what was said during those times, you would appreciate that man even more. And young John was one of my best friends because of Dean Smith and Big John Thompson. Thanks for being here, John. We've got, I said at one time I was going to say I was honored and I was flattered, and it's wrong to say that. I'm privileged to be standing up here in front of the Smith family. The way you guys have handled this thing has been amazing. The way you shared with all these lettermen is something that'll never be forgotten. That is something that every letterman realizes, and it's something that every assistant coach realizes. And down here on the end, Wild Bill Guthridge. That was awfully nice, and Coach, that was well deserved. A lot of years as the right-hand man, and a lot of years as the comic relief. We needed that a lot of times. But I do feel privileged to stand up here and talk and try to represent everybody and try to bring some closure if we can, but not closure about the memories. I was in school with a lot of these guys here, and I knew every one of them. None of them knew me, except Mickey Bell. I laugh when I hear John Calipari at Kentucky talk about a player's first basketball program. And to John's credit, he has given Coach Smith the right to say that he did that first. And this was a player's first program. Hearing from the players at this program has been something that's been phenomenal, and they've all done it in their unique way, but in the way that Coach Smith would love them, as he did every single one of you, as he did me. And I was the little guy from the big town outside of Black Mountain called Asheville. And what he did for me is what he did with Big John Thompson. He shared his knowledge. And that is the most gracious thing you can possibly give. I appreciate, as I said, young John being here. I was told that Les Robinson, Gary Williams, and Bobby Crimmins may be here. The only one we could find was the guy with the white hair. Bobby Crimmins. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you. If Gary and Les are here and some other people, we have Gary here. Les is here. Gary here. Gary's still looking for the place, but Les, thank you very much for being here. Stand up, please, Les. Coach Smith loved Bobby. We played a couple of years ago at College of Charleston to open up their new building. And Les Robinson comes running over to me and says, "You'll appreciate this." He said, "You got to tell Coach Smith," because Bobby had left Les Robinson tickets for the game. L-E-S-S, Les Robinson. Right, Les? That's the gospel, okay. But I do appreciate you guys being here. And down here on the front row, we have the athletic director, assistant athletic director, and former player Gary Padgett from University of Kansas, a place that Coach Smith truly loved. Thank you. Thank you. We're finished with grieving because it's been hard. We've grieved a lot, and it's been hard. But we are celebrating the life of Coach Dean Smith. And I look over here and I saw John Swafford, Mac Brown, John Bunning, Larry Fedora. Larry, you weren't as privileged as those other guys, but you would have loved Coach Smith. You would have loved him. If you ever hear anybody say that Roy Williams said Dean said this, you know it's a lie. Because I've never referred to him anything other than Coach Smith. If you hear anybody say that Roy Williams said Bill Guthridge, that Bill did this, that's a lie too. Because he's always been Coach Guthridge. And Coach Smith used to say, he'd call and he'd say, "Coach Williams, Dean Smith." I said, "Coach, how you doing?" Right? We're partners playing some good golf matches, and I'd always call him Coach, and he'd say, "You can call me Dean." I said, "No, sir, I can't." And I never have. What to say about Coach Smith right now is a celebration for me, because it's been hard. I said it the best way I could yesterday at the start of the game. It was funny because I told the team, the staff didn't even know about it until I think Thursday or maybe Friday. And yesterday we had some people watching practice. Friday we had some people watching practice. We took the team in to the locker room, and the managers came out and checked that everybody had left. So we brought the team back out. I'd drawn it up on the board. And so we brought the team back out and went on that end down there. Got 4 guys in the 4 corners, and got Marcus in the middle, and I guarded him. I knew one thing, he was going to be successful that way, and so that was awfully important. I even dreamed of Coach Smith last night. Gospel truth. I hope I never hit another golf ball if that's a lie. So Coach knows I'm telling the truth. But some of the things about Coach Smith, and one thing I thought of when it was said something about Coach taking them to Butner and practicing. It's one of the times I disagreed with Coach Smith. He took one of the teams when I was here to the state prison, maximum security prison. Everybody there had at least 2 life sentences. And they closed that door, that gate, and it is a scary feeling. And we're in there and we're doing a little clinic and everybody's having a good time, and Coach says, "Well, let's scrimmage those guys." Okay. And he looks at me and he says, Coach, you referee. Now, there's some players here that remember that. I said, Coach, you think I'm calling a foul on one of those guys? You are crazy. And that was the truth. I didn't call a single foul. I think Jimmy Braddock was on that team. We had some, James Worthy was there. The other thing I remembered last night about Coach Smith is he always wanted to make sure that you guys knew you were first, more important than anybody else. And I've tried to do that for 27 years as a head coach. One day, I was talking to a player, and I have a rule when a player's in the office, nobody interrupts. And if somebody calls, I don't take the call. And Jennifer Holbrook, who's sitting over here, was my secretary at that time. I've got a player in the office, and she opened the door and stuck her head in, and I looked, I said, what? Because you just don't do that. And she said, former President Bush is on the phone. I said, would you please tell him we'll call him back? Okay. True story. So when the player and myself, when we were finished and the player left, I walked out and I said, was that really President Bush or somebody like Mickey Bell? You know. And she said, no, the Secret Service called first. And I said, well, see if you can get him on the line. And so she got him on the line and I talked to him and he wanted to see if he could get 2 tickets to the next game. Swear to goodness. So 2 or 3 years ago, the Final Four was in Houston, and they honored President Bush. And Jimmy Nance was the MC, and Jimmy got up and told that story about Coach Roy Williams wouldn't even take his call. And President Bush got up and said, the conversation I had with Coach Williams was fantastic because he said his players were more important than anybody. And that came from Coach Smith. I would like to encourage all of you to tell people what they mean to you. At the private service with the family and the Letterman, I told them a story that I had never told Coach Smith, that I loved him. And I've regretted that. And I've told my players, encourage them to tell people that really mean something to you, tell them how much they mean to you. Coach Smith knew what he meant to me. I tried to give him a great deal of credit because I told the truth. Everything that I did, I got from him. Now, yesterday, I didn't guard the 4 corners quite as well as he would have wanted me to. And I look out and I think Coach Larry Brown, who was one of the first guys to run the 4 corners, up here is Phil Ford, the best ever, Kenny Smith, Dick Grubar. I tried to give him credit every time I did anything, but I never really told him what he meant. So my players are sitting back there at the back, and they know this is the truth. We should all spend time telling people what they truly mean to us. I had a coach one time that said, if you coach a guy 30 years later, and I'm from the South, so guy means boy or girl, either one, so it makes no difference. But if you coach someone that 30 years later, you can still see something that you gave him, and to really make sure it's something positive. Every day our lives will show something that Coach Smith gave us. The way we treat people, the way we treat people with respect and dignity, and the way we care, because that's what Coach Smith did. The guy that was a great influence to me, Buddy Baldwin, my high school coach, is sitting over here. He played for a little while on Coach Smith's freshman team. And then he had to quit because he said he was about to flunk out of school, and he decided they'd run him out if he went back home. My first year here as an assistant, I would talk about Buddy Baldwin several times. And late in the year, Coach Baldwin came to a game, and Coach Smith walked out of the locker room, and Carmichael, when saw Coach Baldwin, he said, "Buddy, what are you doing here?" And then it dawned on him. He said, "Roy Williams has been talking about you, and it just now dawned on me. That's the same Buddy Baldwin that played for me on the freshman team." That was 30 years before that. I was thrilled that Coach Baldwin talked me into coming to North Carolina. I was the first Williams to ever go to college. But I was really thrilled that Coach Smith remembered my high school coach that day. A few games back, I looked over and there was a gentleman down in the middle here, about the second row, standing there and watching pregame. And I got Clint Gwaltney. And I said, "Clint, go over and ask that guy if his name is Terrence. And if it is, tell him it looks like that he might still be able to play." And so Clint walked across the floor, and the guy standing down there and said, "Is your name Terrence?" The guy went, "Yeah." And he said, "Coach Williams said that you might still be able to play." And I made Coach Smith proud that day, because Terrence Burroughs played on my first JV team 37 years ago. And Coach was really proud at that time. We're very fortunate to be here together in a wonderful, wonderful family. The Smith family, I thank you. We love you. Trying to speak on behalf of every one of us. Everybody has negatives. Everybody has pluses. Coach Smith had more pluses than anybody I've ever known. Let's raise our hand and point and thank him for the assist. Thank you.